everybody. It's Ryan King with KSJB Sports, bringing you kind of a big preview weekend because we have a major weekend of football all around in the NFL, college football, as well as the NDSU buys are going to be in action. So we're going to kind of be previewing all of the great football that's going to be going on. NDSU making their debut in the FCS playoffs. It is championship weekend in college football, so of course all of these games are going to be affecting the upcoming college football playoffs. So we have all of that, as well as, of course, Green Bay Packer fan, they're taking on the Bears, and the Minnesota Vikings have another interesting matchup this upcoming weekend, so we're going to be talking about that as well. But let's start off with the NDSU Bison. They will be making their debut in these FCS playoffs. They had the first round bye as the number 1 seed. So coming up on Saturday, right here on KSJB, matter of fact, they will be taking on Illinois State. Now, Illinois State defeated Southeastern Louisiana 21-3 to advance into this tournament, so they will be taking on North Dakota State. We'll talk more about that matchup in just a little bit, but some other FCS playoffs matchups going on this weekend across the United States is the winner of North Dakota State and Illinois State this Saturday will take on the winner of UC Davis, the number 8 seed, and Rhode Island, the number 9 seed. So whoever wins that game will face either North Dakota State or Illinois State. Moving on, some other matchups to look forward to. Number 5 Lehigh is taking on number 12 Villanova, as well as number 4 Tarleton State is taking on UND, and UND is a team that you definitely want to keep your eye on in these FCS playoffs because last week in the first round they played a team that was 11-1 and completely destroyed them 31-6. So we'll have to wait and see on how that goes. They're going to be playing a little bit more tougher of an opponent this week, number 4 Tarleton State, but can they keep that momentum up and perhaps advance? We'll have to wait and see on that. On the other side of the bracket, number 3, Montana, will take on number 14, South Dakota State. That's going to be a pretty big matchup there. Number 6, Mercer, will take on number 11, South Dakota, as well as number 7, Stephen F. Austin, will take on number 10, Abilene Christian, and number 2, Montana State, is taking on Yale. So those are all the second round matchups of the SCS playoffs. Now moving back to this game with North Dakota State and Illinois State. Now if you've been listening to me on the air or not, I've been saying pretty much this week that I got a feeling this is going to be a Bison by about 40 points kind of thing, because here's the deal. They are opening up these playoffs. They are in the Fargo Dome. They are undefeated. They have all the momentum. I don't know who's going to slow down this team, especially in these playoffs. There's not one team on here where I look and say, now the Bison might want to watch out for that team. So just moving a little bit more into this matchup, the Bison in this series against Illinois State, they are 16-2 all time. They have won 14 straight games since 2011, including a 33-16 victory earlier this season in October, and I think that was on the October 4th, that was against Illinois State, winning 33-16. So these teams have already played each other this year. Yes, Illinois State played them pretty tough in that one, but this one was at Illinois State. Now this game is going to be in the Fargo Dome, and like I said before, that place is going to be loud. You know the Bison defense is on a whole nother level when they are playing at home. Same thing with the Bison offense. So like I said, if I had to give you a prediction for this game, I'm going to say Bison by 40. Because if Illinois State does not weather that first quarter storm that is the Bison, especially with the crowd being involved and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be a very long day for those Redbirds. So I got the Bison winning this upcoming Saturday. You can let me know your predictions in the comments here on our KSJB YouTube video. Moving on, some other things that are going on in the world of college football. It is, of course, championship weekend. And now, of course, these are all the conference championships, and depending on the results on some of these games is going to depend on what the rankings are going to be looking like for the college football playoff. This will be the last week before we set in stone what that college football playoff is going to be. So some matchups to look forward to. I have my handy dandy list here. North Texas will take on Tulane in the American Championship. UNLV will take on Boise State in the Mountain West, which if you've listened to me before, you would know that if I had to pick a bigger conference for the Bison to to go and play in, and that I think that they can be competitive and be playing in this championship game, it's the Mountain West. But moving on, that's a story for a whole nother time. BYU will be taking on Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. Georgia will be taking on Alabama in the SEC championship again, as well as Indiana and Ohio State for the Big 10 championship, and then Duke and Virginia in the ACC. Now, I think a lot of us weren't that surprised when we say Georgia, Alabama, and the SEC, Indiana and Ohio State in the Big 10, but this ACC championship is quite interesting. Duke and Virginia. I'd have never thought that in a million years that was going to be the ACC championship this year. I thought for sure Miami was going to be involved with that. I thought maybe Florida State was going to get their heads out of their you-know-whats and finally get to business here, but no, it is Duke and Virginia. So just a quick couple of predictions that I have for this. I feel like North Texas could win, but I'm not going to be surprised if Tulane wins this as well. Now, it's very important to remember, whoever wins this one, or whoever is the higher ranked team for those smaller conferences, that's not the SEC, that's not the Big 10, not the Big 12, the highest ranked team of that will get the number 12 seed in that college football playoff. So we will actually see tonight with North Texas and Tulane on which one of those teams is more than likely going to be into the college football playoff. UNLV and Boise State. Now, Boise State, I don't see them like we have in the past couple of years. You know, last year Ashton Genty was there doing his thing. This UNLV team just has a little bit of a different vibe to me. Dan Mullen is there doing his thing right now, and I've been pretty impressed. So I'm going to go UNLV to win the Mountain West Championship. BYU and Texas Tech. Now, here's the deal with this. Texas Tech with a win is probably going to get a first-round bye in the college football playoff. But BYU needs to basically win and be in this matchup, because if they lose this game, they're not going to be in. So they're going to have to win if they want to play in that college football playoff. That one's going to be an interesting game. Georgia and Alabama. Now, this one's going to be interesting for the Alabama fate of the college football playoff. I have a feeling if Alabama wins, of course they are going to be in the college football playoff. But here's my thing. I feel like even if Alabama loses this game, they will be in. But there's a but there. If Alabama gets blown out by Georgia in the SEC championship, I feel like Alabama will miss the college football playoff, just because that will show what it's going to be like playing some of those other teams that are going to be in there that are very, very talented, including Indiana, including Ohio State, Ole Miss, even though they don't have their head coach. There are going to be some tough matchups in that college football playoff. The last time I checked, Alabama, if they were in, would have to play Oklahoma in the first round. Alabama has lost to Oklahoma the last 2 years in the regular season, so that right there is kind of a red flag to me. So as I was saying, if Alabama gets blown out in the SEC championship, they are out of the college football playoff. But if they lose in a thriller or a very close one or by a field goal, or if they win, I got a feeling Bama will be making the college football playoff for the first time in this 12-team format, which is weird for me to say being an Alabama fan. But moving on, probably the game of the day, but this one, it's either going to be 35-30 or it's going to be 10-6. It's going to be one of those kind of games. Indiana and Ohio State, a matchup of the number 1 team in the nation taking on the number 2 team of the nation. I want to see Indiana win this one, because here's my thing. I just don't believe that Ohio State has been tested very well this year. They have played, like a lot of people have said, they have played the cupcake schedule of cupcake schedules this year, especially in that Big Ten. Not a lot of hard games besides the first week when they played Texas. They did face some adversity against Michigan in the game last week, but they came back and completely dominated. So this is going to be interesting. How, as I always say, how does it go when Ohio State has a team that can punch them back a little bit? And Indiana's been rolling too, so I'd love to see Indiana win this game. I just have the feeling that Ohio State is going to be able to get it done. So I got them being your Big Ten champions, as well as Duke and Virginia. Again, weird to say this one, but I'm going to go Virginia to win this one. I don't feel like the ACC is going to be very well represented in this college football playoff, but we'll have to wait and see on that one, depending on the results and all that kind of stuff. So again, a lot of college football playoff stuff going on this weekend all across the United States. And finally, one other couple things that we need to talk about, and that is the NFL. So the NFL, it is Packers and Bears week, as well as for you Viking fans out there, J.J. McCarthy is back yet again. So obviously the Max Brosmer experience did not go the way that we saw it. Now, I will raise my hand and say I was wrong as well, because I thought Max Brosmer could have came in there with a little bit more experience in being able to pass the ball. I thought he would have been able to be a little bit more productive than what we had seen from J.J. McCarthy these last couple of weeks. And I didn't mean by he needed to go out and throw 400 yards and 4 touchdowns or anything like that. But for me, it was just getting the ball out to Justin Jefferson, getting the ball to Jordan Addison, getting the ball to TJ Hawkinson. I thought Max Brosmer was going to be a little bit more productive doing that. Well, that was not the case. So this upcoming Sunday, the Vikings will be playing host to the Washington Commanders, and J.J. McCarthy will be back after his concussion protocol. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, this has been a big storyline for the Vikings all season long. Can J.J. McCarthy handle it a little bit? Kevin O'Connell was saying throughout this week that decision making is going to be a key thing for him going forward, and I completely agree with that. We've seen a lot of times where McCarthy would take a sack, or he would try to be a hero and throw that ball up there and try to be that guy, and it would get intercepted. So how does J.J. McCarthy come back this time from an injury? Can he get this win? Now, I think this is a very winnable game for the Minnesota Vikings. The Washington Commanders are kind of in the same spot that the Vikings are right now. Had a very successful season last year, but this year, because of injuries and quarterback issues and all that kind of stuff, Jaden Daniels has barely played this year, and when he did play, he just gets hurt. So, like I said, this is a very winnable game for the Minnesota Vikings, and it's all going to come down to J.J. McCarthy and that Minnesota Vikings offense. And I don't put all of that on the shoulders of J.J. McCarthy. Kevin O'Connell also needs to start calling his plays a little bit more with the decision-making, the running game, getting the ball to Justin Jefferson, and all that kind of stuff. So I think the Vikings can definitely win this upcoming weekend against the Commanders, but it's going to be a good test for Mr. McCarthy. And finally, one other thing, talking about my Green Bay Packers, they're taking on the Bears. The winner of this game will take the lead of the NFC North. If Chicago wins, they'll have a very nice little comfortable lead, but with a win for Green Bay, they will take over the number 1 spot, and then they would get that home game if the playoffs started. So for me, the biggest thing is it's going to be this Packers defense versus the Bears offense. We seen last week that the Chicago Bears did a fantastic job of running the ball on the Philadelphia Eagles defense. To say that you were doing that against Philadelphia's defense is very impressive. So my thing is if Green Bay can set Chicago up for some long downs to convert, I'm talking 2nd and 10, I'm talking 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, anything like that, that is where Green Bay needs to be, and then have to rely on the arm and the passing game of the Chicago Bears offense. And that's where Micah Parsons, who has been on a tear lately, especially last week against Detroit, that's exactly what he is paid for, to go and get the quarterback. So that's what I think. I think the key matchup here is going to be the Bears run game versus the Packers defense, because if they can set them up, if Green Bay can get them in long down situations and force them to pass, Chicago's pass offense is not as good as their run offense. So you got to be able to flip that script a little bit and make them have to pass instead of the run. And I will say that has been one kryptonite for that defense this year, is their run game. So we'll have to wait and see. I do think this game is in Green Bay. I think Green Bay should be able to pull this out. I won't be surprised if Chicago comes to play. They're going to be motivated. This is going to be one of those games, like I always like to say with the Minnesota Vikings, and this is going to be one of their Super Bowl games this upcoming week. So can they do it? We'll have to wait and see. But this has been a big preview video for the upcoming weekend of a great football across the United States. NDSU kicking off in the FCS playoffs. Championship weekend in big college football, of course, with the college football playoff going to be a big major thing, as well as the Vikings with McCarthy coming back, and Bears-Packers week. So this has been Ryan King. Just a reminder for everybody out there, if you're looking for some more sports news, local news, or even farm news, you can go and visit our great website, KSJBAM.com. We also have this wonderful YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to that. You can get all of our videos in case you get out of the car and you can't listen to the radio. radio. We also have that brand new KSJB Sports app. So any of that kind of stuff you can get right at the tips of your fingers. So make sure you go and check it out. Have a great weekend. Good luck to anybody's teams that are involved this weekend. And of course, we'll recap it on Monday. This has been Ryan King with your prep football, high school, college, NFL football preview on KSJB. Have a good weekend, everybody.